Oh, thank goodness this is the end. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron, and this is the finale to our 2019 ThorgE3 coverage. Normally, every single year, I am so excited about E3, and I was excited going into this E3, but man, this one wore on me. This one was a rough one. Yeah, I'm not gonna come in here and just poo-poo the entire thing, but I will say it would be fairly accurate to describe this year's E3 as Nintendo and its 3-day long warm-up act. Yeah, Microsoft was okay. Microsoft was alright. But a lot of the reason why Microsoft wasn't better, sadly, wasn't even Microsoft's fault. There was a lot of really cool stuff that they showed off that got spoiled in the lead-up to Microsoft's press conference. And because of that, yeah, a lot of the stuff that should have been really hyped was not all that hype. And also, they didn't show off that much gameplay footage. However, you can get around not actually showing off a lot of gameplay footage if you just keep giving us stuff over and over and over again, which is kind of what they did last year. And they sort of did that this year, but there was a lot of stopping to come out there and just talk about buzzword. And I feel like this year's E3 is guiltier of that than any E3 I have seen in a long time. It feels like every single year at E3, Microsoft, Ubisoft, EA, and Bethesda always have to prove their gamer cred all over again, which you don't. You're there. You're at E3. You just have to show us the games. That's all you gotta do. But it feels like they really want to come out there and make it clear that we are gamers like you, and we want to connect with you, the gamers, because we believe in the future, and we believe that the future is more, and we want more in the future, and more games in the future for us future gamers.
Where the video games? Where my video? Oh!
Yeah, this year was worse about that than any year I've seen in a while. It was a whole lot of buzzword. And I said that about Microsoft's conference, and that kind of killed a lot of my enthusiasm for Microsoft's conference. But then we got into Bethesda, and we got into Ubisoft, and oh my god, it was that multiplied by some obscene huge number that I'm not going to sit down and do the math on. But there was so much more of it at those two shows, and they had so much less to show off. And when Microsoft gets in there and they try to, as I said, prove their gamer cred by just using buzzwords, it always feels not disingenuous. It doesn't feel like they don't mean it. It just feels like they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to present what they're trying to present. They don't know how to razzle dazzle. And really, it's a shame because all you really gotta do is just shut up and show us the trailers. That's really all that you have to do. That's one of the reasons why Nintendo does so incredibly well every single year. They don't feel that need to come in there and prove their gamer cred. They don't do the Steve Buscemi meme where they come in there and say, "Hello, fellow gamers." No, they come in there and say, "Yes, we are video game fans." And because we're video game fans, we know that you, the video game fans at home, don't want to hear from us. You don't care what we have to say. We're going to come in here every now and again just to break things up, give you maybe a tiny bit of an explanation. We're going to have a fun little skit about Bowser because we all know how funny it is that guy named Bowser is running Nintendo right now. Ah, isn't that hilarious? And now we're going to show you video games. That's it. That's one of the reasons, among many, why they won this year. But going back to Microsoft, yeah, their show was okay, and it would have been better if we hadn't have gotten those leaks, which it always drives me crazy when this stuff gets leaked, because what's the point of leaking this stuff? Like, it's not like this is vital information that the people need to know. No, it's a trailer for a video game. So if you just wait, they'll see it, and it will be awesome when they see it. Like, I can understand it if someone's like, okay, well, if I leak this, then I'll get popular, then people will start following my channel or something like that. But if you leak it, you get in trouble if you admit that you're the person that leaked it. So what's the point in leaking it? I don't understand why anyone would do that. It just drives me nuts. So yes, it is a shame that Microsoft had a little bit of their oomph taken away by the leaks, but you know, they still showed off a decent selection of stuff. Nothing that really made me freak out this year. Like, even if I didn't know that a new Halo was coming, even if I didn't know about New Gears, which they mentioned the New Gears last year, but even if I didn't know about Elden Rings, I don't know if there's anything that would have made me just jump up and scream. Anything that would have made me just lose my mind. Like last year, when Devil May Cry 5 was announced, no one saw that coming. I'm a huge Hidetaka Miyazaki fan, so I am indeed looking forward to Elden Rings because that's his next game. But we had heard the rumors about this going around even before the leaks. Even before those leaks, we had heard the rumors that Hidetaka Miyazaki and From Software were working with George R.R. Martin on some kind of a game. So we had been hearing that for so long that, okay, no real surprise there. Yeah, there was nothing really crazy this year. A lot of the big reveals that they showed off felt kind of like safe bets. Like, yeah, a new Halo, that makes some sense. New Gears, that makes sense. This new game from Hidetaka Miyazaki, that was kind of the craziest thing that they showed off, but even that was like, oh, okay, yeah, that, of course he's going to make another game. That, of course, makes sense. Yeah, there was nothing in there that was like, I never saw this coming in a million years. And because we lacked that level of surprise, the hype train, it wasn't quite there for Microsoft this year. But then we went into Bethesda and I had to make 2 videos about this. Because yes, there were good things shown off at Bethesda. But the bad things that were shown off at Bethesda were so stunningly bad. They were some of the worst announcements I have ever seen at an E3 conference, and it is just mind-boggling to see such bad announcements being made and people proudly making those bad announcements.
That's right. Human NPCs are coming to Fallout 76.
Imagine a classic Saturday morning cartoon in free-to-play mobile game form.
Fuck yeah, we put a battle royale in Fallout 76.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
And I have looked around at the individual trailers for the things that they announced at their show, and the number of downvotes that I've seen have been insane. Like, go on YouTube and just look up the Commander Keen trailer. Like, not what they showed at Bethesda, but like the official Commander Keen trailer. It's like only, I don't know, maybe 20% of the votes are upvotes. The rest are thumbs down, which, here's the thing, Bethesda doesn't care about that. Bethesda doesn't care, because whether you give something an upvote or a downvote, it still counts as an interaction, which still counts for YouTube's monetization meaning, yeah, they're still making some money off that. And I think that kind of sums up Bethesda more than any other metaphor I could possibly make. They don't care if you don't like this. They just care about getting paid. And when you look at Bethesda's conference this year, yeah, that kind of sums it up. I mean, for God's sakes, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what everyone is saying right now. There was a comment on the Commander Keen trailer from an account that supposedly belongs to the person who created Commander Keen, basically saying, yeah, this is not Commander Keen. So I don't know if it's real. I've seen the post, and people say, no, that actually does belong to him. But if that's true, oh my goodness, I would come in here and say, oh, that's bad news for Bethesda. No, it's not. As I said, Bethesda don't care. They made a mobile game aimed specifically at children. And when you look at everything in there, it looks like a big corporate formula for what they think children would enjoy. Like, there's no creativity behind any of that. There's no creativity in the designs. It is literally just step-by-step, cookie-cutter children's program Saturday morning cartoon characters, because they didn't want to put any work into this thing. They just wanted something that little children could get addicted to and use all their parents' money on. And yeah, it really does just kind of upset me that this is the stuff that Bethesda isn't just pointing out, it's the stuff that they are bragging about pointing out. They're talking about like it's the greatest thing in the world. And hey, when you've got an audience full of, I'm sure, very sincere, diehard fans and not plants in any way, shape, or form who are going to applaud everything you do, hey, why do they care if people on the internet are mad? By the way, let me go ahead and talk about that one more time. I mentioned this in the video where I said, people are saying that they were plants, and I don't want to say that because I can't prove it. But I was going back through that trailer, and for that video, we had to slow everything down to about 65% the speed that it was actually happening, so that way YouTube wouldn't recognize it and then take all my money from the video. And when you slow that down to anywhere between 50 or 70% the speed, you get a much better look at that audience. And yes, there are those people in the audience who were standing up, who were cheering. But like I said in that video, it's the same people over and over again, and they just happen to have the camera right on them. But anytime that the camera would cut to a different shot of people, you would always see a clear distinction between the guys going, yes, yes, and just foaming at the mouth, and everyone else there in the audience. Because anytime they cut to just a random group of people, you saw people checking their phones, you saw people looking back and forth at each other like, what are you talking about? So yeah, we keep thinking, oh my god, that audience, they just loved it. What the heck is going on? Because I don't understand how they could love the stuff that they're talking about. That audience did not love it. Again, going back through that and looking at as closely as I did, no, the majority of that audience was just as baffled as we were. It was just a very select handful of people in that crowd who were making all the noise. And yeah, again, I don't want to say they were plants, but oh boy, I am just waiting on that story to come out from that guy who was there in the full Fallout gear to just say, yeah, they promised me a canvas bag if I stood up and wooed, but they gave me a nylon bag instead. So here's how I really feel about all that. And what's sad is that as bad as that was, as bad as their announcements were, they also had good stuff to reveal there. They had good stuff to talk about, but still there were so many just actual cinematic trailers, which I'm not opposed to cinematic trailers, but there were so many of them this year. And a lot of the stuff they showed off that looked really cool, that got me really interested. Stuff like Ghostwire, stuff like Deathloop. I don't even know what that game is going to play like. I don't know what that thing is. It just looks cool. The trailer was good. It had a good tone to it. It had good presenters. But I still don't know what it is. So I want to come in here. I want to applaud those things that I liked in this even more. But I was going through and thinking of all the games that I liked. And we were actually going to do a top 10 list of the best games that were shown off. And then I had to keep tapping those games down just simply because I had to remind myself, I don't know what these are. But as bad as Bethesda was, Ubisoft was even worse. Because Bethesda, it was like a magic show, a bad magic show, but a magic show because you know that they're showing you nothing, but they were at least trying to make it look like something. Ubisoft just told you straight to your face, we only care about making money off the Tom Clancy people. The rest of you can get the fuck out. Like, Ubisoft has been heading more and more in that live services direction over the years. They've been heading more and more in that direction of, we don't want to make a game that we sell to you and then make another game that we sell to you. We want to make one game that we sell to you and then you continue to give us money for that game for the rest of your life. And even the new stuff that they showed off this year, like that roller champion thing, it looks fun, but all I can imagine is all the microtransactions that are going to be in that. I mean, it's a sport-based game. Yeah, those things are notorious for being loaded with microtransactions. So the rest of the show, it really was just, hey man, we know that the cover-based shooter crowd, we know that the Tom Clancy crowd, they keep giving us money. So this show's just for them. And I have to keep coming back to this. Splinter Cell. They own Splinter Cell, but they're not going to give anybody new Splinter Cell games, even though even the Tom Clancy crowd wants new Splinter Cell games. And they came in here and they had the gall to tease the possible return of Sam Fisher, and it turns out he's in a mobile game. It's a mobile game that, surprise, surprise, is a big crossover between all their Tom Clancy properties. And Jim Sterling posted this on Twitter, so I'm not going to take credit for this, but when Nintendo said they were going to have a crossover between all their properties, you got Smash Bros. When Ubisoft said they were going to have a crossover between all their Tom Clancy properties, you got this. You got just some generic looking phone game. And if you're a Tom Clancy fan, think about the potential. Think about the potential of a big crossover between all these properties. And think about how Ubisoft looked at that and went, yeah, that looks like it would require work and time. And this looks way quicker, way cheaper, and it looks like we can just get a bunch more money out of this. So we're just gonna do that. I mean, hell, even the new things they showed off, that Roller Champions and that Gods and Monsters thing, I look at that and go, okay, these seem like they could be good, even if they could be low with microtransactions, and they do seem different. But when you look at the art style of both those games, two games that seem like they should be very different, they have the Fortnite art style. which again just says to me, Ubisoft doing whatever they think is popular and will get them the most money. Not trying to be creative, not trying to trailblaze, not trying to create something necessarily good, just trying to create the thing that will generate the most talk among the kids out there, so that way they will give them all of their parents' money. So yeah, Ubisoft, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. I don't care about Ubisoft anymore. Like, they are going to have to spend not just next year, but several years winning me back. We keep talking about how EA is kind of in video game jail right now, and I will get to them in a second. But I gotta be honest with you, when I think about how badly EA has screwed up, and how badly Ubisoft is screwing up, I don't know which one I'm more disappointed in. I really don't. I guess EA, because Ubisoft still puts out functioning games for the people that want those functioning games. If you're a Tom Clancy fan, you're at least continuing to get the thing that they promised they'd give you. But with EA, I don't know, maybe their sports games still work, so that's the only reason I can say that Ubisoft is ahead by a hair. But when you think about cruddy corporate maneuvers, I think that they are neck and neck. But now it is time to talk about the conferences that I did not get a chance to cover simply because they didn't really have enough for me to really go into any details on. And we just mentioned EA. EA just gave up this year. EA decided that they were going to do the thing that you do after your conference without having the actual conference. And in all honesty, EA had nothing to show. That's why I didn't decide to cover any of that stuff. Yeah, there was nothing of any importance there. They showed off a new character for Apex Legends, and they are clearly trying to go that Overwatch route with the animated cinematics, trying to show off and introduce this character. And hey man, that is a good formula for introducing characters, but if you're gonna try and replicate it, you have to try and match it, because that was a cheap cinematic. That was a cheap animation, and really, it did not get me hyped in any way. But then again, I don't even know if a good cinematic would have gotten me hyped, because I stopped playing Apex Legends a long time ago. I remember when everyone said, oh, that's gonna be the Fortnite killer, and then Fortnite just laughed and laughed at them, and then they were like, well, okay, it won't kill Fortnite, but it's gonna kill Overwatch. Overwatch better watch its back. And then it turns out, no, Overwatch didn't really have to worry about Apex Legends. Overwatch saw a bit of a drop when Apex Legends was introduced, but in all fairness, I cannot look up the actual number of people playing both these games to compare them. However, just going by the number of people who are watching people play these games on Twitch, yeah, Apex Legends went from being neck and neck with Fortnite to being way below Overwatch in just a matter of months. Like, Overwatch is 3 years old. Apex Legends is, what, 6 months old at this point, and it's already kind of dying. And yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get a brand new character teaser next year at E3. So we're gonna have to wait and see on what happens to Apex Legends, but I applaud them for creating a game that has characters and characters with personalities and unique designs. But real talk, there isn't really anything else there aside from that has me interested, and those numbers are dropping pretty quick, so they're gonna have to think of something to introduce in this game to get people back into it. But the other thing that was shown off at EA that was really worth mentioning at all is that we got to see our first actual live gameplay of the new Star Wars game, and I'll be honest with you guys, I think this looks fine. I think this looks like it could be a very fun game. I enjoy a lot of the ways that you can use the powers while you're in combat. I enjoy a lot of the ways that you can use it while you're exploring the world. The fact that they're bringing in a bunch of the characters that have been introduced in the new canon and kind of using them to link the end of episode 3 and the start of episode 4, I think that's a great thing to do with this game. I'll be real with you. I think a lot of the reason why this game is getting so much hate right now, and a lot of the people are saying, yeah, this looks really boring, is just because it's EA and nobody trusts EA right now. And I'm not coming in here and saying, and you should all be ashamed of that, and you should trust EA. No, you should not trust EA. If anybody is going to be able to screw up a Star Wars game, it's going to be EA. You should absolutely not trust them on this. But I'll be real with you. If I did not know anything about what EA had been doing with the Star Wars games, or if you told me, hey, EA lost the rights to Star Wars, it's been handed to someone else, this is the first game that they're putting out, I'd look at it and be like, yeah, this looks alright. This looks just fine to me. I know a lot of people said that looks boring when this was being shown off on Twitch. The chat was just loaded with people snoring. I don't see it. I think that there's a lot of creative stuff in here. I really do like all the wide variety of enemies that you're facing in here. I mean, granted, you do go up against stormtroopers a fair amount of the time, but yeah, it's a Star Wars game. Of course you're going to go up against a fair amount of stormtroopers in there. Yeah, it's not insanely fast Platinum Games level of action, but I wasn't expecting that in a Star Wars game. I think this looks alright. Again, I'm not being blown away by this, and I fully believe that everything that I saw could turn out to be completely fake. I fully believe that everything that I saw could maybe be the best part of the game, and the rest of it is complete trash. Or this turns out to be the kind of thing where after I have played it for more than 2 hours, I get really bored by just doing the exact same stuff over and over again because maybe what we saw is all that there is to the game. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that could go wrong with this, and this is EA. You should expect a lot of things to go wrong with this. But I do think people are being too negative on this. I gotta admit, I think that if this is what we saw from a Star Wars game, from any other studio other than EA, I think people would be fine with it. I think people would be like, hey, new Star Wars game, alright, this is looking okay. Again, not mind-blowing, not incredible, but it looks okay. It looks alright to me. What doesn't look alright to me was what got shown off at the PC Gaming Show. And I never watched the PC Gaming Show because it's basically just PC gamers patting themselves on the backs for being PC gamers every single year. However, there was one trailer that got shown off and one announcement that was made that has caused a lot of people to get really ticked off, and I can't blame them. After, what was it, 4 years? Oh my God, has it been 4 or 5 years at this point? It's been a long time since this announcement was made. But ever since they announced that they were going to try and make Shenmue 3, they were going to try and finally conclude this long fan favorite story that we had been waiting on the conclusion for well over a decade. They were going to try and bring that back, but they just needed you, the faithful fans at home, to go on Kickstarter and help fund this amazing product. I don't know why I'm doing this voice for Shenmue. I don't know why I'm doing old wizard in a cave for Shenmue. But yes, ever since they announced that they were doing the Kickstarter for Shenmue, we keep seeing almost nothing of this game. And listen, I know it takes a long time to make a video game, and I don't want anybody crunching out there. I want everybody to take their time on this, but yeah, they asked for $2 million. They got $6 million. I feel like we should be seeing a little bit more of this every single year. It'd be nice to receive a few more updates on how this is going, especially considering that you asked for $2 million, you got $6 million, then you got more money from the publishers, then you got some money from Sony on this one, and now apparently they're getting extra money from another source. So what happened is that, A, we finally saw a trailer for this, and a lot of people looked at it and said, oh my God, that looks bad. I don't think it looks awful, but it doesn't look good. I'll say that. Yeah, this looks very stiff. The graphics don't look all that great. The graphics look aged. I guess that's the nicest way that I can put it. They definitely do not look like brand new PlayStation 4, Xbox One, modern day PC graphics. These look like things that would have come out kind of at the tail end of the last generation, but hey man, it's an indie game. An indie game with a massive budget and money coming in from multiple different sources on this one, so alright, fine. But I'm not going to judge the graphics too bad. The animation's kind of stiff, and I am going to judge that a bit, considering that martial arts is supposed to be a big part of this story. But the big announcement that got everyone ticked is that it will not be on Steam. It's going to be an Epic Game Store exclusive, which this day and age in the gaming world is basically the equivalent of giving your PC fans a giant middle finger, and they announced this at the PC Gaming Conference. They announced this at the show that every single year, as I said, is basically just there so that PC gamers can say, aren't we the best gamers of all? Isn't it wonderful being a PC gamer? Unlike those filthy console owners who have to fight between PlayStation and Xbox and what is that, a Switch? Oh, don't even get me started on the Switch. Oh, the PC is truly the master of all gaming. And what's that? It's Epic Game Store exclusive? You can burn in hell! Yeah, they came in here at the PC Gaming Show and said the one trigger word that is going to set off any PC gamer out there, Epic Game Store exclusive, for a game that people had been waiting on for so long. And the way that they're getting around this is that they're saying, hey, on the Kickstarter, we said it would come to PC. We never said anything about being Steam exclusive. And of course you didn't say that, because 4 or 5 years ago, that wasn't a thing. 4 or 5 years ago, if you wanted to play a game on Steam, what, was Good Old Games going to have some kind of a sale on it? Was that going to be it? Were you going to create your own browser for you to go and play this game on? No! You were going to get on Steam. That was the only freaking option back then. Nobody back then would have guessed that one day the most profitable video game of all time would come in here, open up its own online store for PC gaming, and would start buying up every property that possibly could. No one would have seen that coming. So of course, if you say it's going to be on PC back in 2014, 2015, whenever that thing went up, then yeah, everybody is going to just assume it's going to be on Steam. And of course, they're going to assume that more when you put up the Steam store page, when you can go on Steam and actually find it on their page. So yeah, you can't blame them on that. And a lot of people are now asking for their money back because of this. And real talk, I can't blame them for that. Because listen, if it was one of those things where we need $2 million and that's going to be the entire budget of this game, then everybody donates that, great. But that was not the entirety of this game. You gave them $6 million for the $2 million they asked for, and then they got another bag of money from source B, then they got another bag of money from source C, and now source D is coming in here and just giving them the biggest bag of money. Oh, they're backing that dump truck up there to tell them, oh yeah, it now can only be played on our system if you're a PC gamer. Holy crap. Yeah, give the people their money back. You don't need that money. I mean, hell, if you're announcing that it is going to be an exclusive this late in the game, the money that Epic gave you is not going into development. It's just going to you. So take the money you got from the Epic Game Store and give it back to the people who want their money back, because yeah, they no longer have the product that you kind of promised them. And yes, I am aware it is very easy to just go in there and download the Epic Game Store. But also, I'm not going to wag a finger at anybody who doesn't want to do that. If you are a fan of Steam, and that is your PC gaming client of choice, and that is what you spent almost half a decade believing you would use to play Shenmue, and now they come in here and tell you, yeah, that ain't happening, even though you gave us money to help make this a thing, yeah, go ahead and ask for your money back, and give them their money back. And the real shame is, this was one of the biggest success stories of a Kickstarter game, and it made a lot of people think, okay, a lot of other beloved older franchises could possibly come back. And every single time that some crap like this gets pulled, it hurts other upcoming promising looking games on Kickstarter. So really, nobody wins in this scenario, except for the Epic Game Store and the people receiving money from the Epic Game Store working on Shenmue. Now, the last conference that I did not get a chance to talk about was the Square Enix conference, and yeah, it was good. That was an actual good one. It's kind of weird to say that the people who last year just showed the exact same trailers we had already seen, and The Quiet Man, everyone's contender for the worst game of the year last year, came in here this year, and because this year was so they were in the lead for a moment. For a brief moment, Square Enix was the best show of E3 because they came in here and went, okay, what's the Square Enix fan base? People who love JRPGs? Let's just load this thing up with JRPGs. And indeed they did. That entire show was just front to back, just game. And it was a lot of the games that their audience is looking for. And I know you might be saying to me, okay, well, how is that different from Ubisoft? Because Ubisoft realized that their audience was the Tom Clancy fans, so they just showed them a bunch of Tom Clancy stuff. First off, Square showed off way more than what Ubisoft showed off. Like immensely more games. Secondly, Ubisoft's entire fan base is not the Tom Clancy fans. The Tom Clancy fans are there, but they also have other fans, and aside from Watch Dogs, yeah man, Ubisoft basically just said, yeah, we don't care about you guys, screw off. Square at least did have some variety in there. They had some different stuff. They had the Avengers to show off this time, for crying out loud, which I got some new stuff to say about that Avengers footage. We will get to that in a second. But I do believe that Square did show off some more variety than Ubisoft did, but it is true that Square came in here, realized that their fan base is the JRPG crowd, and they kind of leaned heavily into the JRPG crowd. However, they leaned heavily into the JRPG crowd because they knew, oh, our fans like this, let's give it to them. Ubisoft leaned into the Tom Clancy crowd because they realized, oh, our fans will give us a lot of money for this. Let's let them give us more money for this. Yeah, that's where the difference comes in. With Square, it honestly did feel more genuine. It felt more like, this is what our crowd wants, let's give them that. It felt less like, oh, this is here just to make money. Which it is here just to make money, but you don't have to make me feel that. You don't have to make this feel dirty. But we didn't do a show talking about the Square Enix conference because even though I wanted to come in here and applaud them for showing off so many games that did actually look cool, and for realizing after a long period of time of almost being ashamed of their JRPGs, of trying to go, okay, well that's not fully the crowd that we're leaning into anymore. Let's, we're trying to make some other stuff in here now. It was kind of nice for Square Enix to come in here once again and go, we know that this is what you guys think of when you think of Square. Here you go. However, real talk, yeah, I just actually didn't have anything to say about any of the stuff that they showed off. Like, I look back through it, and there's some stuff in there that looks cool, but that would have been the entire video if I made a video about Square Enix's conference. Oh, that looks alright. Last Remnant is coming to the Switch. I don't know what that is. Neat. Yeah, that would have been basically what the show would have been, so no one wants to listen to that. However, the Avengers stuff got shown off, and I made an entire video talking about the Avengers stuff that was shown, but more accurately, what wasn't shown about the Avengers trailer, because I still had many questions about what the heck this thing is. Like, it wasn't until they were halfway done talking about how this would be a live service game with massive multiplayer online aspects that I even realized they were talking about an online multiplayer game. I just sat there going, what? Wait, you're going to add different characters to the story mode? What do you mean? How do you do that? Oh, this is an online multiplayer thing. I don't think you guys making this game realized that the people at home had no idea what this game was before you decided to present it to us. And even then, there wasn't a lot of gameplay footage that was shown. So I was honestly just kind of nervous because of how many questions I had. And I have to be honest, that was a bad trailer. I mean, not the trailer itself, the presentation. Just coming in here and giving us like a little snippet of something, then an interview with the cast. And then hardly any actual gameplay, even though it was available to be played there on the showroom floor. And then not giving us any details on what the online aspect of this was going to be. Like, I still don't even know. Am I just going in there and fighting bots the entire time? Is it player versus player? What the hell is happening in this? I don't know what this game is. I don't know what the online side of this is. And you talked about that online side for a long period of time. I should know what it's going to be. However, as I said, I do have something new to say about this, which is that ever since that trailer was shown, I have heard from many YouTubers and streamers who are at E3 who have gotten a chance to play this thing, and they have all said two things. They've all said, no, this actually is really good. It does play very well. And the second thing that they have said is, why didn't they show any of this? Like, all of them basically agree, oh, that was a very disappointing trailer, and you did not show us nearly enough of what this game actually is. And all those people got to play this game, and they came back and said, they should have shown you what I got to play, because that was actually good and would actually get you people excited for this game. And now I understand what this game is going to be. It's weird that they talked for like 20 minutes about this game, and yet people who play this on the floor for 20 minutes are able to sum up way better than the people who have made this game what it actually is. It's so weird how much they botched the actual showing off of this game, but from what I have heard from the people on the floor, it is a really good game. So alright, I'm back into the excited crowd. Just, learn from your mistakes on how you showed this thing off. It is very important to realize how a first impression can make an impact on someone, and this was not really a good first impression. However, the other thing shown off at the Square Enix show that I really did want to talk about was Final Fantasy VII. Guys, let it never be said that I will not come in here and admit when I'm wrong, because I spent years saying two things about Square. One, that Avengers game is dead. We're never going to see it. They've been radio silent for too long, and there are a lot of problems happening behind the scenes at Square Enix. I think that thing is not happening. So, yeah, I was wrong about that. It's happening. It is almost here. I was 100% wrong about that. The other thing I was wrong about, I did not think that what we would get from Final Fantasy VII was going to be good. And granted, it's not here yet. We still don't know if this could get screwed up in one way or another. But what I saw there looked amazing. I spent pretty much the last year going, guys, there's so much stuff being screwed up at Square Enix right now. I honestly think that Final Fantasy VII thing is going to be a mess. I think we should all just give up our hope on this thing. It will probably get here. I think it will actually happen, but it is not going to be the game that we want. I think it's just going to be a big, jumbled mistake. I think we're all going to feel bad about this thing when it comes out. That trailer looked amazing. It all looks so damn good. And the combat. Oh my goodness, the combat in this thing. I will admit, I am not really a fan of how Final Fantasy has moved away from turn-based combat. Not because I necessarily prefer turn-based combat, but because I don't think the non-turn-based combat that they've had in their Final Fantasy games have really been good. I didn't think the combat in Final Fantasy 12 was all that great. Didn't think it was all that great in Final Fantasy 13. I really didn't like it in Final Fantasy 15. I know some people applaud that game's combat system. I hated that combat system. This combat looks great. It looks like they spent a decade working out the kinks with all their Final Fantasy live action combat systems, and now they have found a way to combine live action combat and turn-based combat. I love how when you use spells or items, you have that little meter that builds up to let you know when you can use it. It adds a level of tension to that about whether or not you're going to be able to use it in time. And also, I am so happy that when you go to select that item or select that spell, everything freezes. That is one of the main reasons why I prefer the turn-based combat to the live action combat. I like being able to stop and think about this. Because I know that some people might think, oh, that takes all the tension out of it. It adds more tension to me. When you are in that slight pinch of a moment where you have to stop and think to yourself, okay, what thing do I need to use? What is going to be the perfect thing that gets my butt out of the fryer right now? Yeah, that is so good. But instead, when the game keeps moving as you're trying to select that, it doesn't give me the time to think. So I have to go in there and go, screw it, just select this thing. Just do this thing. That's not tension, that's more of just blind panic when you're in a stressful situation and you have to select the right item for something. Or, more often what would end up happening is that every time I would have to use an item, I would have to run away from the battle, and then use the item, then go back into the battle. And there's nothing really fun about fight, run away, use an item, charge, fight, run away. Yeah, that's just kind of tedious, and it really does break up the action. This adds that tension back in there, and I'm so happy about that. This honestly reminds me of the combat in the Grandia games. Like, Grandia 2 is one of my favorite RPGs of all time, and it would also have a system when it was your time to move, and you wanted to select an action, it would freeze everything. But then, you would have to actually go and run around this big field to do this live combat in order to do the effect that you just decided to select. And it always felt so rewarding. It felt so good. And I look at this like, oh my god, it's Final Fantasy VII, but with a combat system that looks like A, it functions and reminds me of another JRPG that I absolutely love. And the graphics look great. The acting sounds amazing. Tifa looks really darn good. I know everybody was waiting on that. Everybody looks and sounds so good in this game, and during the combat, you have those little tiny bits of dialogue exchanges that make the characters feel so much more real. All this looks great. It looks amazing. It is so incredible to me that this was the game that I was the most nervous about. This was the game that I kept looking at like, yeah man, Square, they have not had a good track record with me. They could screw this up in many ways. However, after this, as I said, I made a list of the games that I'm looking forward to the most, and I'm not going to read it off because this year's E3 was kind of a disappointment, so I don't really have a lot to talk about in there. But Final Fantasy VII was number one on that list. They pulled that sucker around. This looks incredible to me. And again, it was playable there. I've heard from people who played it. it plays as good as it looked. And that brings us back around to Nintendo. And I'm not going to go into a lot of details about Nintendo because I just put out our video covering Nintendo's conference. We put up a stream highlight of our favorite moments while watching the Nintendo conference. And I even talked about them at the beginning of this video when I compared them to the Microsoft conference. But I'll just come in here and say, yeah, they won. They won hands down. And they won because they know how to put on a conference. Show us the trailers. And I'd be willing to say they probably had the biggest surprises of any of the conferences this year. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Microsoft got screwed over and a lot of their stuff got leaked, which is a real shame. But even if it hadn't been leaked, again, a lot of the stuff that Microsoft showed off, we had heard those rumblings about. We had heard it might be a possibility. Here at Nintendo's conference, Banjo-Kazooie, No More Heroes 3, a Panzer Dragoon remake, God, Breath of the Wild 2, there's so many things that I can't even think of. Hell, even though it didn't look all that good, the fact that there's a new Contra game coming out, no one saw that coming. Yeah, there were big surprises at this year's Nintendo conference. Even the stuff that didn't look all that great was still like, oh my god, I can't believe that's an actual thing. And again, just to repeat it, they came in here, they showed the trailers, and they didn't feel the need to sit around and just fill it with buzzwords. I really do want to go back through every single one of these conferences and just do a percentage breakdown of time that was spent showing games, time that was spent with people on stage talking. I just want to do that percentage breakdown of every single one of these conferences. I'm not going to because I have had to watch each of these conferences about 3 times at this point. I need kind of a break from all that, but I am so interested to know not who won because it was clearly Nintendo, but how far ahead they won by. I want to know what their percentage of time actually showing games was compared to everyone else was, because that's what everyone else needs to learn from. So, was this a good E3? No, but I do think that Nintendo was so good at the end, and Square Enix, surprisingly enough, was also so good at the end, that both of them kind of came in here and turned things around. And I know a lot of people are saying, man, Sony had the right idea this year. Sony had the right idea. They decided not to show up because this was a big train wreck. I think Sony did not have the right idea. I think Sony gave up without a fight. That's how I look at that. Because as I said, this kind of comes down as right in between good and bad. And I think that if Sony had come in there with almost anything to show, then yeah, I think they could have turned this around. And what stuns me is that they've got stuff to show. And a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, but they only have like 2 exclusives lined up for the next year. Then show stuff that aren't exclusives. We don't just need to see Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima. You have a lot of other stuff that is coming to the PlayStation that you can show off. I mean, this year Sega showed off the new English trailer for Persona 5 Royale. That's going to be a PlayStation exclusive. You could have shown that off at the PlayStation conference. There's a new Oddworld game that's coming out, and I would be stunned if that wasn't coming to the PlayStation. We didn't even know that was existing until a month ago when the first trailer for that came out. Just go to them and say, hey, we know you wanted to show it off a month before E3. Just wait. Just wait and let us show it off at E3. That would have been a huge reveal. There's so much stuff that they could have shown off, and they just decide, screw it. And I think that that's really the thing that kind of hurt E3 the most. It's that if Sony could have come in here and just been pretty good, that pretty good would have helped elevate the average of this whole thing up just enough to make us go, you know what, it wasn't a bad E3 after all. It was all right. We can walk away feeling okay about this year. But that is it, everyone. We are finally done. Thank you guys for sitting through another ThorgE3 E3. These things, they always take a lot out of me, but they're always a lot of fun because, gosh darn it, even when it's a bad E3, it's an excuse to talk about video games, and I just love talking about video games. So let me know, what were your favorite games that you saw at E3 this year? Let me know that and more in the comments down below. And if you want to watch us react to any of the E3 shows, we're going to upload all of those over on Twitch at twitch.tv/ProfessorThorgy. And you can always follow me around the web on Twitter at ProfessorThorgy or at Thorgy'sArcade. Thank you guys very much. Come back next time. Bye.